Excellent. Hello, everybody. I'm Trevor. This is Tom, and we're here with our twice a month live stream where we talk about what we know about building and launching and doing interesting things in the startup space. We are going to talk about two things today. We have a pretty tight schedule. We want to make sure we respect Tom's time and my time and your time listening. We'll be talking about some of scratching your own itch and when to build what you know, and I guess when to go do something else instead. And also, because it's always top of mind for any builder these days, I think, what's happening and how we're testing AI automation. Of course, Tom's the automation guy, and how you can use it ethically in the business that you are building right now. All right, Tom, I think we can lead off here.
Sure.
Scratching your own itch. Tell me a story, because you build and ship as like a profession. Tell me a recent itch of yours that you've owned scratched.
Well, okay, so there's a lot of things to say on that. I've probably held a little under 1,000 calls over the last 12 months with people that run everything from dog groomer businesses to VCs and marketing agencies and everything in between. And you see this layering effect of someone trying to ask you to solve their problem versus asking you to create a product with the solution that they think will solve their problem. And that's a really big difference. So, over the last couple of months, actually, a lot of people in the network have said, "Hey, appreciate the live stream, appreciate the insights here." That's a huge takeaway here. Fix your problem first before you try to productize it, please, because you're both shooting at things that you're not even hitting yet, right? Like, you can't build a product off of a problem that you haven't validated that you solved for yourself. Right? There's a couple of logic jumps there, but I assure you it is way better to start solving that for yourself before you start productizing it. So I'm very happy to say that over the last 2 years, we've been trying to do that for us internally. Our whole thing has been, how can we build our own internal systems at X-Ray, and then, like an X-Ray, see through them, turn them inside out, and allow anyone to download them, use them, use the systems that we spent so much time and energy meticulously crafting the ways that we can actually do, project management or a call transcription or a whole bunch of other things that we've sort of internalized. So we have launched XRay.Systems, which is going to be our huge library of systems that we use internally that anyone can adopt. So we have a couple fancy things. One of them is called a Slack task maker. We have everybody's emoji of everybody's face as an emoji in Slack, and when you react with their face, it knows to create a task for that person in the right project based off of like a channel project mapping inside of Notion. So we use Notion for everything, and we're able to create a task just by reacting with someone's emoji. So we have a whole bunch of those things. Thanks for pulling that up there. So not all of these systems that I talked about just now, Slack Task Maker specifically, is like publicly visible. But if you reach out and want to learn more about that, or the something we call NotionTrace. Actually, if you just / NotionTrace on XRay.Systems, that should come up. And it's just you need to slash. And that's activity logging for Notion. So when you
Trevor, never asked me to live type. There we go. All right, NotionTrace.
There we go. So it's activity logging for Notion. So as things change in your Notion databases, you're able to build automations off of really complex filtered, conditions. So if certain things have certain properties or certain pages were updated, you can actually have very complex automation logic to populate the rest of your systems, notify people, or whatever. And we do that we implement this system inside of your infrastructure for a flat, $4.99. And that's really like what the NotionTrace system is about, is like so much changes in your Notion infrastructure over the course of a day. And wouldn't it be nice if you could just snapshot everything and say, here are all the tasks that got done today. Here are all the pages or the documents that, were moved for this client in this certain way. You can capture all of that. not with a single automation, but with some other infrastructure that we set up and built for ourselves, which makes all hands meetings really really nice because it's just you see everything across the whole company. Everyone's work is cataloged and visible. And that's not a thing that you can really easily do with just Notion or with just Airtable or with just one tool. You sort of need that layering effect to be able to snapshot the activity logs.
And
So
this is an interesting case, I think, of also what you just mentioned. Don't build a system until you've done it yourself. This $4.99 fee is because you have to do the onboarding for somebody and build the workflows for them.
right.
So you're doing this manually
Mhm.
first to one, prove market need, and two, understand what really people want to see build. And then you can automate it more heavily, which one might bring the price down if it needs to, but
Yeah.
two just lets you scale up the amount that you can offer. So that's cool.
Yeah, and we didn't build a tool to be able to configure all this stuff yourself, right? Like there's infinite ways that you could want to monitor multiple Notion databases in specific fields to like notify or trigger some other thing. Like that's a conversation that needs to be had. But we've been using it for us for a year. And the fact that it feeds all of our all hands meetings with everything that has been done across every project we were working on, it's just super nice and just really easy to use because you don't actually use it. You just kind of use the Notion system, and the activity logging happens as a function of you doing work anyway. So there's a lot of things like that we're really excited to start to release in showing all these different systems. And how we started this whole thing with Summary.legal, that was originally a system called Debrief. And
Yep.
that's for us. Every Zoom meeting that we have gets automatically downloaded. Thank you. And transcribed and AI summarized, and nobody needs to do anything. It's just automatically there as a function of using Zoom for every call that we have. So yeah, really really excited about that. But tying it back to the original point here of don't build a product first, solve it for yourself first. And
Yeah.
and now we're finally starting to be able to actually commercialize these solutions to our own problems really.
Yeah. Do you want to talk about the course flow or workflow designer course that you've been working on yet, or is that for a future discussion?
I'll mention it because I it's important. I think the whole premise of X-ray is that there's this emergence of a workflow designer, someone whose sole job is to design the way that work happens at your company for really every job role to be able to leverage the tools you already use, automation and AI in a way that's more thoughtful and appropriate given the context of the certain roles at your company. So we're coming out with a course called the Workflow Designer course, where we teach some of the thought principles and some of the technical implementation, tactics to be able to design the way that work happens at your organization. And it's really like a cross between a operations role and a technical role or a no coder role. But we think all of those department specifics operations people are really just workflow designers, 2 years in the making. This is something that, as AI especially gets injected into all of these type of, computer knowledge worker job roles, somebody's job at the company needs to say, hey, this is where we use automation and these are the decisions that, certain people need to make. And this is where AI, takes over. It's going to be some hybrid approach, and hopefully someone can help make clarity out of that.
I believe you, even before you've released this course, you had a discussion with someone who basically made the jump and said, "Look, I'm not even what I was anymore. I am now." I mean, I think they called it process
No,
automation or
no, they
something.
used the term workflow designer. They did.
Very
So
good. All
that
right.
was like honestly a very heartwarming email to receive of somebody who literally transitioned their whole career to say, hey, I want to be a lawyer versus actually, I started doing all this operations stuff for these lawyers, and I'm
Yeah.
designing the way that they're doing work. I'm designing the way that they're forming documents or creating companies or doing the thing of being a lawyer. And yeah, they were able to communicate to me, at least, that hey, I've officially quit and been rehired as a workflow designer in this firm. So it's pretty awesome to see.
Awesome. You are at this forefront here. I've seen a lot of people talking about chief automation officer.
Mm.
There's a dude who I follow on LinkedIn who I think has like chief automation officer as his job title.
Sure.
But the idea of, you're empowering a fleet of a tribe of workflow builders and designers is really interesting.
I think
Uh,
automation is just too one dimensional, right? Because it's not about just the automation; it's about the workflow that the automation is a part of. And when it comes down to like the experience of the person doing the work, that needs to be designed. That has some squishy stuff as a part of it that you've got to engage with, and it's not just about, oh, we're going to move that data over there and then the problem is solved. It's a lot more about, okay, what's the experience of the employee making these decisions? Why are they confused? How do we give them confidence, and designing the environment around them to be able to, deliver that decision faster and get to the result that they're trying to create with or without automation. I think that needs to be, a part of the discussion.
Fair enough. Yeah, that is the emerging complexity of what you can build and, maybe someday productize
Yeah.
is, I think, uh, there's going to be a lot more happening like that. And people who are now, whether it's in AI, whether it's in no code automation, whatever it is, right, sitting at the front of that wave and being able to say, I want to take advantage of this is definitely uh, getting that skill sooner is better.
Well, why don't we shift gears here, Trevor, and hit
Sure.
the some of the giant whale size AI news that came out around open sourced large language models.
Yeah, that's
You want to talk about that? Because that's
yes,
a whole giant can of worms.
that's the whole giant can of worms. I agree. So I'm it it is necessary and threatening at the same time, right? Having LLMs only developed by corporations and restricted in use is bad. We can agree because it's the same as saying, hey, if the internet was only allowed to be used in certain narrow, restricted ways at its inception, we wouldn't have the world we do now. But rise of internet also brings rise of 401 scams, right? Like you
Mm,
get bad actors. Stable Diffusion is rolling out stable LLM, which is, at the moment at least, not really competitive with GPT-4. It is at the early days of what you saw with GPT like 2 or 2.5 or something. So it's interesting, but not yet as fully featured as GPT-4 is. But they're rolling this out and saying it's a conversation UI to have discussion with an LLM. Cool. The challenge it brings, I was just describing to a buddy when we were on a run this morning, is we're, I bet, a month away from someone taking an open LLM like Stable Diffusion, running it on their own hardware so that you don't have any monitoring or access to it, making the changes they need to it to train it on like a million of those scammers who work out of Hyderabad, India, and do financial fraud scams in the US. And then do speech to text, which is sounding really good these days, and arguably might sound better than many of the people who are making those calls, and
mhm.
then just feed in the inputs from an audio, do uh, reverse it into text, have the LLM generate a response based off the training of all the successful calls they've ever had, and just begin to fleece people at even bigger scale than before, where you're paying, I don't know, 8 cents a day per phone line that you own, right? Like this sort of thing, and that's just one tiny example, right, of what you
Yeah.
can unlock once you take the guardrails off of these AIs. Is it starts to now become like Do we need to mandate that the phone companies have active AIs listening in on phone calls to identify if this appears to be an AI run conversation? And then you end up having AIs fighting AIs. And now we're going to the cyberpunk future, dude.
Yeah, it's pretty quickly goes off the rails, right? And
Yeah.
I think the point you made earlier about the internet being used for good and not good is a good parallel. I think the sort of hold your breath moment is the fact that this AI stuff, one, is still unknown that it even exists by a huge portion of the
Yeah.
population, right? Because
Yeah.
it's just moving so fast. So really understanding the capabilities of what is possible right now. I wouldn't even say that I fully understand the capabilities of everything that's possible right now, just because it's moving so fast. I mean, I read Ben
Yeah.
Bites every day, and it's like I'm not going to click on these 50 links of 50 new companies that got
Yeah.
100 million in investment. Like I don't have time for that, right?
Yeah.
Um, but it's do you the philosophical question is, do you limit this? Does Stable Diffusion not make an open source model? Well, someone else will, right? It's sort of the prisoner's dilemma
Yeah.
again and again and again. And like, yes, there absolutely will be AIs detecting AIs to try to combat that and prevent that. Like you see that with in schools right now, trying to detect people copying work, right, or just not doing work, right? But I think this is a little bit of the same pattern we've seen in the internet, but it's definitely new territory where there's a lot of unknown unknowns, and if somebody's got to do it, why not us? Like that is going to happen. But I think for companies wondering where AI fits in their primary business, it's going to be amplifying people that actually know the context and understand and have the relationships with other people. Like we're, at the end of the day, these are humans doing business with humans, and if you end up just doing business with just an AI, I can't imagine a whole lot of people are going to be happy to be getting those spam calls to say, "Oh, another prince from Kenya. Yeah, I'll send you, all of the money I have." Like, I'm just not buying that.
But you're going to have, because of how capitalism optimizes, right? Before
Mhm.
too long, we will have, when you call Microsoft with a customer support
Oh
problem,
yeah,
you will have an AI.
yeah,
And then people who've had that experience, when an AI calls them and says, you owe Microsoft $400, back with the same voice
yeah,
of the Microsoft bot that they talked to.
yeah,
Like, this is where it starts to get really witchy, right?
yeah.
Is anything you can design for good, you can also design for bad, right? Nuclear power also brings you nuclear bombs, or kind of the other way around, but whatever. Um, the the good and the bad are at such a scale that we don't know. And like, I'll give you an example, right? So I just kicked off today a new test campaign. I'm continuing to use and invest in AI in what I do for my agency. I think anybody has to take what their business is and add AI to it
Yeah,
is a better approach
responsibly.
for success than saying we are an AI company.
Yeah,
And so right now I'm running an ad where, when you interact with these ads, because Facebook charges just nothing for likes on a post, right? It's like I can get 200 likes for $10. It's just whatever, stupidly cheap, and 200 likes in a decently fit audience, right?
hmm,
Because what good is a like? It's worthless. But hook up a messenger bot where, if you like the post, then you get a message, and prepend that with, I have a video that renders out me saying your name and then putting it into, right, like, hey Tom, thanks for liking the post, I appreciate you sharing the word. By the way, you got this free ad template that the post talks about. Would you like 50% off the book that explains how to use it? Right. And then if you reply, I have ChatGPT hooked up to the chatbot so that it doesn't give the usual 1, 2, 3, 4, push a button and get an answer. You can say no thanks, and they'll say, hey, no worries, right? Like, it
yeah,
will process this and give a human sounding response. Now, it's going to go wrong. I guarantee you it's going to go wrong because that's AI. Like right now, is early days. Weird stuff will happen. I'm almost more interested in what the fail states will be than what the success percentage will be.
Hmm.
Right? Because I've got whatever I'm paying OpenAI, whatever the fraction of a cent is per API call. Right? Fine. Okay. Um, what I'm looking at seeing is one: is this better than just the straight normal interaction with a chatbot? Like, I don't really think if you're sophisticated, you will think this is a real response from a human. Most folks aren't sophisticated. So it's curious to see, are people going to be like, is this a bot? Because I've told the bot to, yes, admit you're a bot if someone asks you. Right? I'm trying to set this up so if you don't know, you think you talk to Trevor. If you do know, yeah, you caught me. That's fair. Um, is that ethical? I think it is because I'm not fleecing you, right? I
Yeah.
am attempting you to take the free thing you got and then actually get the book, which I know is useful. Because I've had a lot of people say it is. Um, I'm curious if that's better than just doing straight, regular, like ManyChat style bot automated outreach. There, as you play with these tools, one of the things you have to be doing in your own business, of course, is seeing is adding automation and AI just for the sake of doing it, or does it actually make things better? And I think if you measure this and you are attentive to it, you will find there are tons of instances where it is better, and there are also tons of instances where it's not. You still can't get copywriter, like professional copywriter quality copy, out of any of the LLMs because it's just like
It's not how it works.
it's
Yeah.
trained on the average of people, right? And most people are not that great a writer.
Yeah.
So okay, there's a case where you don't want to write your blog post for you, but you might want to come up with new headlines, right?
Yeah.
Sort of thing. Um, yeah, I don't know. The need to try to get some control in your business as AI accelerates the pace of acceleration. I think every entrepreneur is feeling it. PricewaterhouseCoopers just announced they're putting $1 billion into LLM
Billion with a B?
with a B, the big B, for something, right? They don't even really explain. I mean,
No, no.
they don't have to say, but it's also weird because PwC doesn't build stuff, right? They're consultants,
Ah,
they're accountants. Like if they're saying, "Hey, to be fair, yeah, I fully believe an LLM could manage my taxes for me,"
yeah. You bet they
a
could.
hundred
Yeah.
percent. At that point, if you say, "Hey, we're going to train an AI to handle every American's taxes," and cut the knees out from under all of those tax filing programs, and just say, "Hey, pay us $15." Sit through a half-hour phone call with a virtual agent and your taxes will be filed for you. Like, yeah, I would do that, right? It's better
Yeah.
than using Jackson Hewitt to file my taxes and get them wrong every year or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
So I get it. I get it.
And also, the entire tax system in the US requiring everyone to guess and check. Right? I mean,
Yeah. The IRS has a number that they know if I
yeah.
don't tell them, I'll get in trouble.
I know.
And I object to the fact that they won't, like, I can't go to the government and say, what number did you expect? And say, cool, I believe you. I
Yeah.
would do that. I wouldn't like even if it was more than I might be able to get myself. If it was just fine. Yes, that number looks good. Let's go. Right.
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, if your incomes are high enough, fine. You get an accountant to find all the tax dodges and everything. But if you're making under 150K a year, you just take whatever number the government says and you say that sounds good enough to me. Here's my check. Thank you.
I'm sure it'll be a lot easier when there's, the government AI and you get to literally talk to Uncle Sam.
Oh man, howdy there, American. Nice to see you on board. Yeah, I don't know,
You got to
man.
capture some of these voices, Trevor. That's a whole other business that, you could just have all your voices reeled out there.
Yeah, there's a fair question. It's like you have the licensed John Cleese for your OnStar GPS back when those were still a thing. Uh,
Well, there was I forget the name of the app offhand right now, but you need 10 minutes of someone talking, and then it can synthesize that voice to say whatever it is you.
they've cut that way down now. It's about 2 minutes.
Oh, really? Oh,
Yeah,
great. Well,
it's insane.
I've been really wanting to record my 95-year-old grandmother saying a couple things and make some automation videos with her voice. just how hilarious that would be. Make some shorts on that. But
That's, yeah, you could well, if you're not going to use Zapier, then you've just chosen a bad path in life.
it would be fun, wouldn't it?
That
It'd
would
be
be, or you can make her replace all of the Call of Duty barks in game with just your grandma being like, "Well, that's a tango down."
All right, Trevor. Tell me,
Yes.
where can everyone find you?
Well, I'm at crowdtamers.com. You can find me on Twitter at Trevor Longino. Oh, I do have something to real quick plug before we wrap up for today. I am doing let me share my screen here real quick. A free event with Founder Institute on the
Tell me about it.
4th of May. That is, I rewrote the headline of this. I'm thinking I'm now calling it Launching Your Business in 1 Week with Facebook Ads and Build Your First $1 Million Funnel. But this is all about how to build a $1 million funnel in Facebook. I walk through in the webinar here. I walk through at a high level, and then there's a paid workshop that it follows. That I normally charge about $2.5 grand to run for a company, because this is Founder Institute, which I've been volunteering with for 6 years now. I agreed to do just $3.99 for everybody who attends the paid course. The webinar is free; the course is not. And then you'll get, one, the actual walkthrough of every single part of it. Two, I will review every single person who does the assignment that I'm giving in the workshop. So there'll be a workshop, 2 week break, and a review. Everybody will get a one-on-one. I'll record and look over how this is all going for your top of funnel. And then also with my buddy David Isaac Matthews, just a couple days before, we're doing a free webinar about how to uh, get your bottom of funnel monetized, fixing the problems where if you've got users but you're not making money, what do I do here? So the first, there's my next meeting coming. The first, this webinar is actually coming second, although it's top of funnel. Top of funnel webinars on the 4th. This webinar, because it's with my Singaporean friends, is at 5:30 in the morning for the US, which is probably prohibitively early. We'll also have it on demand after. So if you want to see how to fix your bottom of funnel, I'll be doing that too. Those are two things I'm doing in like gulp a week. So I've got to make sure my slides are all ready. You'll find me here doing this and teaching, and of course on Twitter at Trevor Longino, on LinkedIn as well, and any place that you actually watch this, I'm also there, of course. How about you, Tom? Where do people find you on the interwebs?
You are going to find me best on LinkedIn at Tom Nassr, spelt like it is right there.
There.
Yeah, we do a ton of content on how to automate, what is workflow design, tutorials, guides, some strategy thought pieces there, all on XRay.tech, XRAY.tech. And yeah, that's the best place to find all the things that come out of our brain.
Excellent. Tom, thanks so much. I'll see you in 2 weeks. Take care, dude.